Three, two, one, we're on. Let's go. Today, as promised, horribly is the horrible, horrible, horrible topic of uh women's women dying, not just women dying at the hands of their either current or former partners or domestic violence, women and to a lesser extent children, but we won't touch on the children. We'll just stick to the women dying in Victoria due to systemic failure. Michael Califf, author of A Very Broken System, ex addict, homeless guy, and inmate veteran of a number of years. I'm an expert. Let's just put it that way. So, first and foremost, to document the utter failure upon failure upon failure. And as any of you all heard that have listened to other of my podcasts or whatnot, that there's not anger, but the annoyance, I guess, comes from the knowing the true level of resources that were spent because I was involved in an IBAC investigation against one of their own in Victoria, being a prison officer. So I was asked to testify as a criminal witness and in an IBAC investigation against a Ravenhall GEO employed prison officer. And that led to some harassment. And when they started doing their harassment and bully boy tactics, I in short, told them to go F themselves. And it kept, but what I got exposed to was just abhorrent. And it included people at the high, like magistrates, being well aware of women that I'm going to point out here, getting used in the most degrading and demeaning ways, and even in one case, rewarded, paid, coerced with the returned custody of their toddler, their children, the children that their drug addicted mess of a life had seen removed from them. I won't get into the part about later, after about 10 years of harassment and being exposed to the corruption. I actually messaged IBAC. I won't get into that part where they wouldn't investigate that, even though I gave them time, dates, places, hows, where's, whys. Won't get into that. Let's just get into the utter waste of a decade minimum at the all things law and order in Victoria. All things law and order in Victoria has been one big epic fail. And unfortunately, in that fail is people dying. Lovely, beautiful women who just deserve to live their lives. So the first screen I'll share today is the story of Jill Maher. Jill Maher was murdered. This goes back to 2012, pre Daniel Andrews, and arguably it was the murder of Jill Maher, 22nd of September 2012. I think Daniel Andrews took office in 2014. So the Jill Maher murder was committed. The murder was committed by Adrian Bayley, who was on both bail and parole at the same time. So basically, it was that murder. Jill Maher was walking home just as a normal Aussie. She's an Irish national migrant, what have you. But she's just a normal Aussie Westerner girl walking home from the pub, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, whatever it was. And she got attacked by a person who was a genuine system enemy. That guy and Adrian Ernest Bayley should not have been out in the community. He was on both bail and parole at the same time, and it led to like an outcry. And also, I've said this before, that in effect basically means that whatever party was in, that's it, you're gone. The next party, we don't care who you are, what you are, we're going to have a try with you, because clearly that party was tarred with not being able to keep us safe. Particularly when now we know the true level of manipulation with this government. I could only imagine what was going on behind the scenes with the getting Daniel Andrews into power, and instantly remind yourself of the images coming out of China standing alongside Putin. Hey, you can vote for anybody as long as it's Daniel Andrews. So I'll try this one. You got to forgive my production skills. So we also have, well, actually, I won't jump there. Let's stick on Adrian, Bayley, and John, just in case you doubt any of this as bias. So John Sylvester wrote in 2015-ish. The simple fact, because would have been about the time, I'm guessing, that Adrian Bayley ended up getting sentenced on it. I'm guessing that's why it's so much after the simple fact is that on September 22nd, 2012, this is the trusted Victorian crime reporter John Sylvester Sly. The simple fact is that on September 22, 2012, Adrian Ernest Bayley should have been in jail. He should never have been in a position to attack, rape, and kill Jill Meagher as she walked home in Brunswick after a night out with friends. Jill Meagher should be alive, and the system remains condemned by her death. And that's the simple, cold, hard facts, very sadly. What else we have around this time was another horrible, horrible, horrible system failure, in the sense that this soul, Fiona Worzywoda, excuse me if that's not pronounced correctly, was literally stabbed to death in the middle of one of Victoria's, well, busiest, like a little hub. Sunshine is a hub that, it's even got one of the larger railway hubs where it feeds out to V Line into the country and whatnot. So it's one of the largest precincts, if that's the right way to word it. And Fiona had just left the court to get her anti-violence order, whatever the wording is, updated to say, yes, I still need that. Don't take that, please. And when she left, she got attacked by Craig McDermott, her ex or her partner at the time, and stabbed her to death horrendously in the middle of the street, in the middle of broad daylight. Just a system failure. Somehow, another system failure. And could you have foreseen it? Who knows? But at the end of the day, if you keep getting, snippets of little bits of coincidence, it's becoming more than a coincidence, right? Now, there's a myriad of offences. I've just taken a few of the most horrible, horrible situations that are close to, if not directly, publicly, obviously involved to all things Victorian government, Victorian law and order. So what we have now, I'll take to the story of a 12-year-old girl who was in the care of child protection, what have you, in Victoria. She is apparently a bad case. She ended up killing, I think it was her caseworker. 12-year-old girl accused of killing a woman in Melbourne's inner west, which is Footscray. Prosecutors on Thursday applied to withdraw the murder. Fair enough. It was the director's position that there were not really. She's being assessed by a psychiatrist. So that story doesn't explain the actual, and arguably rightly so. It's a 12-year-old child who was let down by the Victorian Child Protection, Child Welfare, Child Services. Now, don't forget, this is the same system that oversaw, I kid you not, that oversaw drug addicted women, sex working women, generational sex working women, having their children, the children in the care of that same organization, having their toddlers used dangled over their head. Hey, if you do this, if you do hide these, help us get Michael Califf, the whistleblower, the dog who dared be in an IBAC investigation against one of our own who told us to go F ourselves when we started harassing him because of it. If you do this for us, we'll give you your child back. No questions asked. Even if you're still a drug addicted mess with all sorts of criminal guys coming and going from your house and all this type of stuff. Just no questions asked. You can have it. That's the same system that failed that poor girl and that obviously failed the beautiful woman, the carer who got killed. A horrible story. We also have Isla, I think Isla Bell comes straight into this because Isla Bell is almost a spitting image of one of the women that was used in a degrading, disgusting way. Now, I mean, no disrespect to Isla Bell at all. It's in the story out there of her, how she got in a horrible situation where she was with these much older people who weren't as caring as some people, and she ended up losing her life. Now, again, this same government, this same system, saw no problem with using these women. I kid you not. It makes me sick knowing the truth. So what happened in my personal case was they in my personal experience, this government who spent resource after resource, this police force who spent resource after resource after resource, I mean next level resource, going after me because to protect their own self-interest, basically to protect their corruption in effect. Yet here we have people, they could have saved one life, just one life. Had they spent the same resources, the same hacks, the computer hacks, the tails, the stalking, the airing private conversation to involve other people, had they done that, had they locked in on one genuine person, now I'll get to an example of the genuine person. You could use the Worzywoda story if you wanted as a genuine example, but there's a myriad of genuine examples going in and out of the courts, genuine domestic violence cases. They could have spent the same resources and they would have saved one life, one woman's life. But no, instead they wanted to gangster on and play their games and, and it's sickening because magistrates knew of this. Not only did people like Magistrate Pappas from the Melbourne Drug Court know about this, they did nothing about it. Just like, hey, like laughing about this sport being played, this waste of resources being used, knowing full well the disgusting undercurrent to it. You can't be angry enough. You literally can't be. Now, here we have, this is a horrible story. We don't know the behind the scenes of this. We do know that Ian Warcock and her mother, so her sister, H.L. Kaj, excuse me if I get the name wrong, the sister of an aspiring model who was found dead near St Kilda Pier after disappearing for 13 days, says her family has been left in the dark about the teenager's sudden death. Mary Wakuk, 17, died last month with her body discovered on the foreshore by a dog walker on August 24. Weeks before her death, look, beautiful young girl, didn't deserve to die like that in, of all places, Melbourne, Australia, right? Right. It's just a given, right? Weeks before her death, Mary was taken to Sunshine Hospital following a medical episode linked to the condition. She had a condition, apparently, and she was concerned about it. She didn't want to stay there. She left. Who knows? For all you know, who knows? I'm not even going to speculate on the true extent. All we do know is she was found dead in St Kilda, which so was Isla Bell. And we'll finish on the page that sparked me wanting to do this, and that is Victoria's record domestic violence scourge set to soar over grand final long weekend. How disgusting. What the heck is that? But yeah, there's a spike in domestic violence because, grand final. What's the matter with people? What, they come together for too long so they argue? No, mate. It's more culturally something is not right. What has changed? What is wrong? I'll tell you what's changed. 12 years of mismanaged incompetence in our government who pretends to you that they're doing something about it when they're not. They pretend. So this is what I'm pointing out. This is why I went back to Jill Maher to demonstrate how you believe that something is being done about it. Like at the time, Daniel Andrews got voted in with the Jill Maher and the horrible situation and the outcry that was the women's domestic violence and what have you. They were going to build Ravenhall Correctional, was going to solve problems with more cameras and inmates. Here was all these left-wing women's groups saying, yes, Ravenhall's got all these cameras. You know how many women prison officers I watched? You go and do the data, you could freedom of information this. You know how many young women prison officers were treated like absolute fodder at Daniel Andrews Ravenhall Correctional? Literally, they promised these women. I had many a conversation myself, just because I didn't work alongside them, just because I met them a different way. I had many conversations with the young female staff at Ravenhall Correctional who explained the job application process and how they were sold a lemon, so to speak. They weren't told anything that happens in prison. A lot of them were astounded at. I had one young female, I kid you not, this happened to me in Ravenhall Correctional, which was Daniel Andrews' response to these issues. So Daniel Andrews came swinging out, telling everybody he's going to solve women's domestic violence. We've got Ravenhall Correctional and we're going to look after women. We're super moral superstars, which is all an utter nonsense. Please don't believe that. At Ravenhall, what I was met with young female staff. They had 70, which is a high percentage of the initial young prison officers left within the first 3 months because they were just literally thrown under the bus. What ended up happening there, I had a young female prison officer, I kid you not, this ended up happening to me. I had a situation where somehow I got dragged into it, maybe because, I don't know, you'd have to ask them. I got called up to an office and there was a inmate, no teeth, hard knock life story. I don't even know, maybe psych issues. I don't know his story. I didn't know the guy from a bar of soap. All I know is he had locked in on this young female officer and was giving her a hard time. The senior prison officer called me in as like some senior, God only knows, like a mediator. I had this situation where I had this young female prison officer in tears because she hadn't been properly trained. She'd just been thrown out there. Don't worry, she'll deal with it. Who cares anyway? Literally in tears. Me just trying to get myself up out of the gutter. I'm not trained to deal with this. Trying to console her and say, it's okay, you'll be okay. Look, this is just, this is what happens. And are you kidding? That's the management from our government. That's how we get to this. This is how. And then when I'm prison enemy number one, system enemy number one, Michael Califf, for daring to question the integrity of the force, they spent resource after resource after resource going after me Now, what is so sickening, one of the narrative controlling, I don't know, you'd have to actually ask why. But there was definitely about 2016, 2017. This is Daniel Andrews' government manipulating the public. About the same time, there 2016, 2017, thereabouts, there was definitely, I can't find it online. It's buried, this story, because it may like embarrass the system. It's the only reason I can guess it's not there. But there was definitely a story of a person. We all knew him. He was there at Durrangol Correctional, a low rating prison. He could be heard speaking to his mum or whoever his family is. She's a piece of dog, all these ones. He gets out from that prison, and within 6 weeks, he murders that poor girl. This is 2017. This is 3 odd years after Daniel Andrews and Jacinta Allen and Anthony Carbine's government has come in telling the public they're going to reduce the women's domestic violence rate. Don't you worry, that horrible Liberal Party did that to you. Don't you worry, we will protect you. We'll protect you from those neo-Nazis too. Don't you worry about that, Victorian public. So 6 weeks after this scumbag gets released from a minimum security prison where he was in just literally for something non-criminally mattered, just the IVO breach, for argument's sake, perhaps. That's it. I don't know. Drink driving, I don't know. All I know, he was at Durrangol. All the guys could hear him carrying on that lived with him. 6 weeks after he got out, it was the talk of the prison. He's killed his ex-partner. And he could be heard on the phones talking, I'm going to kill her when I get out, and all those air raids and nonsense and whatnot. Yet, there's 2 things that come from that. One is the systemic failure upon failure upon failure. And I've mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. This comes from a system who saw no problem in using drug-addicted women in the most degrading, demeaning fashion. I've got photos, mate. Anyway, they use women in the most degrading of degrading ways, and then in one case, rewarded, coerced, bribed, encouraged, paid, used as currency, however you want to word it, the returned custody of the toddler that this one had lost, this one drug-addicted woman had lost because had removed from her because of her drug addiction, her drug-addicted mess. Yet she was at the hands, the mercy of the system. The system, the Victorian government said, hey, you do this, you help us get this Michael Califf, I kid you not, we'll give you your toddler back. I kid you not. She could be heard boasting a lot about how, yeah, I would do anything to get my toddler back. Hang on a minute. Good on you, right? That's nothing on you, drug-addicted, generational sex worker lady who I met when I was homeless. That's no problem on you. There's a big problem for the government and the people pulling those strings, I can assure you. And she wouldn't see it. She would not know. She would just be like, yeah, well, yeah. Anyhow, so then the B in that part is the burying of the story. So clearly, you can find story after story on women's domestic violence, the Worzywoda. Yet that one particular story, where is it? And why has it been buried? Why has it been removed? It's not, well, hang on. There's a bit of a systemic failure. Don't report that. Can you look, enough, please? Oh, come on. We'll tell you when we're about to raid the bikies. Come on, like, do you mind, please? I mean, look, that is how damaged the Victorian system is. That is how broken the Victorian system is. That is how it leads to women dying horribly, even if it's not the same like outward stabbing in the middle of, after a person has just left the court, or even if it's not necessarily by a horrible rape/murder by a person who has is somehow, very strangely, been released on both bail and parole at the same time. Even if it's not a system failure like that, it's still a massive system failure. It's a massive system failure upon failure. And the fact that that system is using women like that, no problem. What for? Not to solve not even to solve crimes, not to prevent murders, pedophile rings, drug imports, just to protect their own self-interests. We've got big problems in Victoria if that's happening. Well, not if. We've got big problems in Victoria because that is happening. We've got record crime stats. So we had record level crime stats last year. We've just increased them by 15%. And we've got the best we can come up with is our new police commissioner promising to reduce 5% over 5 years. Yeah, or 5% a year over 5 years. Either way, you've only just got back to about the record level crime stats. Please. And this would all be well and good. This would all be half. Nothing can make it acceptable. But the simple fact is, had resource after resource after resource. I mean, I just did the loose math, which will be for another podcast, and I'm guessing we're at about $7 million a year minimum was spent on protecting their own self-interest. It would have been more, but I'm guessing $7 million a year over 5 to 7 years was spent on protecting their own self-interests. They could have just saved one life. One Isla Bell, one Worzywoda, one Jill Ma could have saved their life. But instead, what they went after, what they wanted to do, was shine that little ego-driven nonsense of theirs all the way through till we're iterating through until we're looking at the images coming straight out of the Dezi Freeman PorePunkah fiasco or saga or incident, whatever you want to word it. Honestly, it is. You cannot be angry enough. If you live in Victoria, you cannot be angry enough. Anyway, speak soon, guys. Don't forget to press subscribe.